Epigraph. Another world, another time, another age. Thra, a wondrous planet circling 3 suns. However, the age of resistance is ending. For a few trine, the Gelflings have fought for freedom against the Skeksis. But now, the Skeksis have created a new weapon, the Gartham, a powerful form of super soldier. Worst of all, the Skeksis have gained new allies in the form of the goblins. But as the Gelfling resistance tries to find a way to survive the hardship, a revelation is revealed. The dragons of Thra were not always the giant reptilian creatures that ruled the skies. But the Gelflings must do everything in their power to protect the shard of their world's heart, their world's thunder, their world's power. The Dark Crystal. Chapter 1. Revelations. You ever wonder what the stars taste like? Kylan asked, prodding the embers of their campfire with a stick. The flames spat sparks upward, vanishing into the vast, uncaring sky above the Black River. Rian snorted, tossing a pebble into the dark water. Probably like burnt marshmallow or regret. Gurgen's fingers clenched around the hilt of his dagger as he scanned the tree line, though the dense foliage revealed nothing but shadows. Those Gotham and the Warlock's goblins are getting closer to the village by the day, he muttered, voice low enough that only the 3 of them could hear. The firelight flickered across his face, carving deep lines of tension around his mouth. We can't pretend this is just another patrol skirmish anymore. Naya, perched on a mossy stump beside him, flicked her fingers in restless agitation. They're moving faster than we predicted, she admitted, her usual confidence fraying at the edges. Even the marshes aren't slowing them down. She glanced at Rian, who had gone unnaturally still. You saw what they did to Serena? We can't let that happen again. The horn's deep, resonant call shattered the night's uneasy quiet. 3 sharp blasts. Then a long, mournful wail that sent a shiver down Rian's spine. He was on his feet before the echoes faded, his hand automatically checking the sword at his belt. We better see why they're calling us, he said, voice tight. The others didn't need convincing. Gurgen was already kicking dirt over the fire, while Naya tossed Kylan his satchel with a flick of her wrist. They moved fast, slipping through the undergrowth, with the practiced silence of hunters who spent too many nights evading things with sharper teeth. The horn meant urgency, which meant that this was an emergency meeting. Later, Rianne's fingers drummed against the warped wood of the council table. Once polished to a sheen, now scratched raw by hasty maps and clenched fists. The hall smelled of damp stone and burned herbs, the latter courtesy of the mystic's latest failed attempt to scry beyond the mountains. He didn't belong at the head of this table. The chair was too large. The shadows too long behind him. And every time he glanced up, he saw his father's ghost in the empty space where the Stonewood elder used to sit. "Stop fidgeting," Naya muttered under her breath as she slid into the seat to his right, her knee bumping his under the table. "They'll think you're doubting yourself." "I have called you all for this reason." The vaporous scholar's voice was hoarse from days spent poring over scrolls, their edges frayed with urgency. She unrolled a brittle parchment across the table. Its surface marked with faded ink sketches of winged figures. Too large to be gelfling, too slender to be the hulking dragons that now nested in the peaks beyond. Brea and Celadon helped me uncover this in the Harar archives. It seems dragons weren't always what they are now. Her finger traced the outline of a creature with elongated limbs, its face eerily familiar. They were gelflings once, twisted by the darkening. A stunned silence settled over the table. Gurgen's dagger slipped from his fingers, clattering against the wood. "That's impossible," he breathed, but the scholar only shook her head, tapping another scroll, this one stamped with the Skeksis' jagged insignia. The Lords of the Crystal documented it themselves. They called it an unfortunate side effect of their experiments. Her mouth twisted. They were trying to create obedient soldiers. Instead, they made monsters too wild to control. Augra's voice crackled like dry leaves in the wind as she stepped into the firelight, her single eye reflecting the embers with an unsettling glow. "The Darkening is much more ancient than all of you know," she said, her gnarled fingers tracing the air as if unraveling threads of memory. "But it started out as a liquid, clear as a mountain spring, sweet as first light. Some gelflings drank it by mistake, thinking it was water from the Silver Sea. They became the first dragons." Kylan's quill hovered over his parchment, ink dripping onto the page like a black tear. "You mean they didn't choose this?" Augra's gnarled fingers curled around the edges of the table, her knuckles whitening. as if she were gripping the very fabric of time. "No," she rasped, her voice thick with something between sorrow and old, smoldering rage. "But despite their eternal youth, they still have Gelfling compassion as well. They have lived in hiding for many a trine, ever since the Skeksis began their reign." The firelight caught the silver scars crisscrossing her palm, marks Rian had never noticed before. "They remember the taste of laughter, the weight of a hand in theirs." Rian's fist hit the table hard enough to scatter loose scrolls. "And Deet is still out there, alone. We have to find her." The words tasted like ash in his mouth, bitter with the memory of her laughter, bright and quick as sunlight through leaves, now swallowed by the creeping dark. His knuckles stung where the rough wood had bitten into them, but the pain was nothing compared to the hollow ache behind his ribs. Celadon's fingers, cool and steady, pressed against his wrist, stilling the tremor he hadn't realized was there. Her circlet gleamed dull gold in the torchlight. Shadows pooling in the hollows beneath her eyes. "Rian is right," she said, her voice carrying the quiet authority of a queen who learned the weight of words too young. "We will assemble a search party at first light." Her gaze flicked to the arch window, where the horizon pulsed an ugly, bruised purple, the darkening thickening beyond the mountains. "But we go prepared. Not all who wander the wildlands now are friends." The Sprighton farmer's brow furrowed, his rough hands gripping the edge of the council table like he might tear it apart. "But how do we find a Groton who's been transformed into a dragon?" His voice cracked under the weight of the question, as if the very idea of Deet, gentle, luminous Deet, twisted into one of those soaring, fire-scarred beasts, was too much to bear. Gurgen's fingers tapped a slow, restless rhythm against his dagger sheath. Then abruptly he stilled. "I once heard from a Siphon merchant," he said, voice low and deliberate, "about a place that the Skeksis and their Gotham never dare to go." The firelight caught the edge of his grin, sharp as a blade. "A volcanic basin in the north. Dragon country." The name hung in the air like smoke. Dragon country. And for a heartbeat, no one spoke. Then the scraping of claws against stone made all of them turn. A hunched figure emerged from the shadowed alcove near the hearth, his rust-red scales catching the firelight in dull flashes. Twit, the kobold, blinked his yellow eyes at them, his tail twitching with nervous energy. "It's gonna be dangerous," he rasped, his voice like gravel rolling downhill. "Real dangerous." He held up 3 clawed fingers, counting off. "Fire salamanders, big as houses, rockworms that could swallow Gelfling whole, and The dragons? His tongue flicked out, tasting the air as if he could already scent their burning breath. They don't take kindly to trespassers. Rian's jaw tightened. He remembered the way Deet's hands had trembled in his the night before she vanished. How her veins had pulsed with that unnatural violet glow. How her laughter had frayed at the edges into something raw and desperate. "We don't have a choice," he said quietly. His fingers traced the shallow scar along his collarbone, left by a Gartham's claw weeks ago. "You all saw what she did to Skeklak 5 trine ago." The memory of it still burned behind his eyelids. Deet, her small frame racked with convulsions, unleashing a shockwave of pure darkening that reduced the Skeksis' lord to a smoldering husk. If we don't find her soon, the Skeksis will turn her into a weapon. Kylan's quill snapped between his fingers. The sound sharp as a breaking bone. "Then we leave before dawn," he said, tossing the broken pieces into the fire. The flames hissed, swallowing them whole. No grand speeches, no drawn-out goodbyes, just... He gestured toward the door with his chin. His usual eloquence stripped down to something urgent and blunt. "Go."
Table trying to look wise, council all grumbling, breadcrumbs rolling eyes. Vapor girl clears a throat, ink on her sleeves, unrolls a scroll so long it trips 3 chiefs. Here in this footnote, blotted in red, says dragons would gel fling everyone's head. Snaps like a crossbow, pardon, come again. Cousin Thorin grew 2 tails after page 10. We drank the darkening, thought it was wine. Passed around the goblet, said tastes a bit odd, but it's fine. Now half the family breathes smoke when they sing a note to the world. Label your cursed drinks. She says Celadon saw it, Berea took notes. Right as a barmaid set fire to her coat. Ryan mutters, dragons used to be us. That explains Uncle Fizz and his breath on the bus. Then the door's grown open, wood starts to creak. Old Argris stumps in light move, pointy ears, I must speak. Hey, hey! We drank the darkening, thought it was tea. Little nightcap, what's the worst that it could be? Now half the valley molts every spring. Moral of history, read what your goblets bring. Hey! Augur says, listen, it started out soup. Couple of gelflings slurked up the purple goop. Next thing you know, claws, scales, wings, whole new species, terrible at card games. Council starts whispering, do we clap or cry? One scribe is sketching Ryan with a tail and one eye. Vapor girl giggles on the bright side. Chief, family reunions now come with